You have kind of a hobby, if you want to call it
Mm-hmm.
that. Talk about it a little bit.
I have a hobby of genealogy, and it's not so much for me, but it's for my boys, because I want them to have a clear-cut idea of the people who came before them and who they were and how that might impact them down the road. And this was information that growing up I had no idea about. I was naturally curious about. And so when the boys came along, I thought to myself, I don't want them to have to be curious about this. So if I can sort of take it upon myself to do the heavy lifting so they can figure this out, I just thought it would be a nice gift to give them. And what I find out through genealogy, we did a story called Secret of the Tree, which is a great little feature. And I found out that myself, and then by extension the boys, are related to the author Laura Ingalls Wilder. Are you kidding me? I mean, I had no clue about that. But it goes beyond that. Their ancestors, my ancestors, are people who were farmers. They were the early laborers of Iowa and Missouri and Minnesota. They were the settlers of communities in those states and helped build something. They were the early lawmen of this region. They were territorial sheriffs in eastern Iowa. They were people who took a vested interest in building their society. And I want the boys, I think, the bigger picture lesson that I want them to learn is you control the destiny of your life. How you spend your time is going to fully depend on you. Are you going to be someone who makes things happen? Or are you going to be someone who asks what happened? And I don't want them to be on the sidelines saying, what was that? Who did that? What's happening here? I want them to be the ones who roll up the sleeves and get in there and get a little dirty, but in the end make their world a better place. Or help people understand their world better. Which is kind of how I see my role to a certain extent. Boys don't have to follow me in this. I'm not real big on, I was in TV, so you have to, Junior, you have to sit on the desk next to me when you're older and do the new. They can do what they want. I just want them to be fulfilled. But I want them to be active. And I want them to know that one person can make a difference and one person can make a change. You just have to be willing to do it.
Is there one thing that maybe not everybody knows about you that you want to get out there or anything? I mean, something that's not really known or...
I think people have a misconception about me. And I'm talking about mostly people I work with, people I know. I think there's a misconception about me that I don't feel anything, or that I'm standoffish and maybe aloof a little bit. Because I don't really go to newsroom parties. I don't really hang out with people outside of work. And I can understand how that would be seen as standoffish, and maybe rightly so. But I think the truth is, as opposed to not feeling anything or being the detached news guy, I think the exact opposite is true. I think I feel everything. When I know people are suffering, it hurts me. I don't like people to be in trouble. I don't like people to struggle. I don't like people to have the idea that they feel alone in the world. The sad reality is that is the reality for some people. But again, I think it just goes back to age and wisdom, and especially the more I do this. When I went to work in Las Vegas, it opened my eyes to a whole new world. Vegas is everything magnified to the 100th degree. there's not just a couple of homeless people, there are hundreds. And people aren't just a little bit poor or struggling, they're dirt poor. They have nothing. And crime out there, it isn't just someone gets mugged. It's someone gets mugged and then gets beat up and then is in a coma for days. Vegas was able to show me the good times magnified 100 times, but it also showed me the bad times magnified 100 times. And I got a master's degree in life by working in Las Vegas and being on the front lines and seeing how people treat each other well and seeing how people don't treat each other well. It made me, working in Vegas made me a better person, I think, and it made me a better journalist, because it really opened my eyes to life's possibilities and what happens when you ignore life's possibilities. It's like that Robert Frost poem, The Road Less Traveled, something about I came to two roads and he had to decide which one to take. We all come to divergent roads and we got to figure out which one to take. You know, it's all about decisions. And again, that goes back to, and I keep coming back to this lately, and I don't know why, but it keeps coming back to what my friend told me. You come into the world alone, you leave it alone. Okay, but what are you doing in the middle? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Who do you think is important to you? And are you important to them? And it's just all the interrelationships of life and how they all just interconnect like cogs.
I think that's all the questions. Is there anything that you'd want to add in there? This is your chance to.
You know, I always end an interview by saying, if you had the chance to talk to an auditorium full of people about XYZ, what would you tell them? So if I had a chance to talk to an auditorium full of people, what would I tell them about me? I'm amazingly loyal to the people I care about, people I love. Do anything for them. As a journalist, I have high standards. I want it to be done and done right, because my rule of thumb is if people are nice enough to watch, we should be nice enough to give them something of quality to watch. And again, the older I get, the more I realize that you've got to stop and smell the roses. And you can't be afraid to stop and reevaluate what's going on in your life. And if there's something that just doesn't jive anymore, or you're sick of it, or you're tired of it, and I think we all get there. But I think the mistake we all make is we're like, ho-hum, that's the way it is. You know, Walt Disney said, and I'm paraphrasing, this isn't the exact quote, but dream big and then do the work to live your dream. We can all have the life that we want. We just have to be willing to decide that we want it and then do the work and the sweat necessary to get us there. And I think that's the mistake some of us make. I think we just get in our rut and we're like, this is my life. The older I get, the more I realize it doesn't have to be. That's the near fatal mistake. If you're not happy with something, why are you accepting it? That doesn't make any sense. If you told me something was going on in your life that you didn't like, the first thing I would say is change it, do something. But then would I do that to myself? And vice versa. If you saw something going on in my life that you didn't like, or that I said I didn't like, you would say change it. But then would you say change it when it came to your own life? We have to be willing to offer ourselves the advice we offer our friends. And I just think that's it. I think I'm basically a nice person, intense to work with. I know you've wanted to kill me a time or two, rightly so. But I think that's it.